congratulate you on assuming the presidency for the month and thank Estonia for guiding the Council so ably last month. Mr. President, we make this statement united as the African 3+1, namely Kenya, Niger, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Tunisia. We are united in the protection of the peace and security of Africa and the interests of African peoples and states to be upheld in the Security Council. We take note of the briefing by USG Rosemary DiCarlo and Acting USG Ramesh, and we also welcome the participation of Ethiopia and thank them for their upcoming update to the Council on the developments since we last met about 2 weeks ago for an informal interactive dialogue. We have been pained by the suffering that has been experienced by our brothers and sisters in Ethiopia because each life matters and is sacrosanct. We send our condolences to all the families who have lost members to violence, including aid workers. We are outraged and saddened by the pain of all the women and girls who have suffered sexual violence. We condemn without reservation the targeting of unarmed civilians. In doing so, we call for all parties with the means to cause harm to cease any attacks or threats to unarmed civilians. We demand that they respect international law, including humanitarian principles and the moral codes that are at the core of Africa's cultures and religions. Throughout the last months, when division and violence has been experienced in Tigray, we have argued for expanded and robust humanitarian access. We have welcomed the government's resourcing of a significant proportion of the humanitarian needs in Tigray. We have urged the international humanitarian community to move with speed and scale up assistance. We have applauded it and also been disappointed by the continuing shortfalls in its response. We call again for all states, international institutions, organizations, and individuals of goodwill to redouble their efforts in Tigray. We support the democratic aspirations of the Ethiopian people. As such, we have argued that the international community and the Security Council give the country space to undertake its most recent elections. We have been gratified by the interim reports, especially that of the African Union Election Observer Mission, asserting that, and I quote, despite some operational, logistical, security, political, and COVID-19 related challenges, overall, the pre-election and election day processes were conducted in an orderly, peaceful, and credible manner. Close of quote. We hope that the election becomes a foundation of a robust national conversation on peace, cohesion, development, and the celebration of diversity and pluralism. Today, the situation in Tigray remains of concern, but there are clear opportunities for peace to emerge. Behind closed doors, we have urged this Council to take careful and responsible actions that will encourage humanitarian outreach to suffering people and not to imperil the situation in Tigray. We again reiterate this strong and sincere call. We welcome the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire by the government of Ethiopia and stress that this Council and the international community should appreciate this decision by the government as an opportunity that must be capitalized on. We hope that it can be translated into a permanent, comprehensive, and lasting ceasefire in order to extend humanitarian care to every man, woman, and child who needs it in every part of Tigray. That ceasefire must be heeded and implemented. We are particularly concerned about the potential implications of the recent destruction of the bridge over the Tekezi River, connecting Shire and Gonda. It is indicative of a callous attitude to the needs of civilians in crisis, and that there are parties not observing a ceasefire. We condemn the deliberate destruction of civilian objects that are vital to the delivery of humanitarian aid. These actions must be halted if we are truly to implement the silencing of the guns which Africans have set out in our Agenda 2063 to work as a region on ending all wars, civil conflicts, gender-based violence, violent conflicts, and preventing genocide. We now call for all armed parties presently in Tigray or neighboring it to heed the voice of Africa that calls for the silencing of the guns. We call on all parties that have not pronounced on the cessation of hostilities to do so without delay and to act accordingly by ceasing all armed operations. They should allow full humanitarian access to every part of Tigray. We further call for the withdrawal of any and all non-Ethiopian forces from Tigray and the standing down of all militias from neighboring federal states. This silencing of the guns serves our continental will and would allow Tigray's farmers and traders to return to their farms and shops so that they may recover their livelihoods and reduce their dependency on the outstretched hand of the humanitarians. We insist on ceasefire by all parties because we know from experience that doing so will allow the deployment of the tools available in Africa's peace and security architecture to help Ethiopia be at peace with itself. The people and the government of Ethiopia appreciate the power of the instruments of dialogue and reconciliation forged by Africans these past few decades. After all, most of the agreements that built our peace and security architecture were forged in Addis Ababa by our heads of state and government with Ethiopia's constructive involvement. We now recommend its tools to Ethiopia to make use of them, as many of us have done. Doing so will show our peoples and the world that we have processes and skills that can indeed deliver African solutions to African challenges. The A3+1 therefore calls for all Ethiopian parties in conflict in Tigray to cease hostilities and undertake inclusive dialogue as a path to national reconciliation. In our view, dialogue is strength, and it is at the core of the African identity. Embrace it and save the precious lives of the people of Tigray to protect your national peace and once again be an anchor of regional security. As we have done in closed sessions, we reiterate once again that the Council should always listen to Africa when it comes to African issues. The Council should also allow the continent the space to resolve its challenges with the support of the international community. We do not make this assertion because we are infallible. Rather, it is because Africa today has a realizable vision of itself growing into a peaceful, united, independent, and prosperous community of nations. We suffer the most from our challenges and gain the most from solving them. It is therefore critical that the Security Council as a whole and its members understand that this debate should encourage and support African solutions, meaning in this instance, Ethiopian solutions starting in the order of ceasefire, humanitarian delivery, dialogue, reconciliation, and responsibility. Among the tools Africa has built is the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. We note the launching of a commission of inquiry on Tigray, launched on the 17th of June this year. We look forward to its thorough investigations that will allow for accountability against perpetrators of atrocities. We look forward to its findings supporting the cause of the Ethiopian people, establishing the truth of what has happened in Tigray, and using that truth to build a stronger Ethiopia. We as Africa will not agree now or in future for this debate to be turned into a platform that undermines the people and state of Ethiopia. Now is the time for careful diplomacy, the rapid scale-up of humanitarian response, prioritizing people, appreciation of regional stability, and the curbing of misinformation and disinformation. We recall the heights of greatness the civilization of Ethiopia like others in Africa, has achieved. We know that disruptions and destructions have occurred in our history. We suffer our challenges today, as Ethiopia is presently doing, but our spiritual yearning for reconciliation and unity is unquenchable. In saying that, we, the A3+1, conclude by reaffirming our respect for and commitment to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ethiopia. We stand in solidarity with the government and the people of Ethiopia at this defining moment in their pursuit of sustainable peace that is conducive to nation building and prosperity. Thank you.